Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Gonzalez Clark. Today we are going to multiply two decimal numbers. However, instead of doing it the standard algorithm way, we are going to see the relationship between these decimals and fractions and actually make these conversions and use the fractions to conduct our multiplication. So the problem that we have here is 4 and 2/10 times 12 hundredths. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to look at each decimal number and we're going to see how that decimal number converts into a fraction. We are going to use base 10 blocks to help us to visualize this. So the first number we have is 4 and 2/10. So I'm going to switch over to my base 10 blocks. Now, in 4 and 2/10, this number is telling us that there are 4 wholes. So I am going to show 4 wholes using my base 10 blocks. 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is going to kind of slide down here. Great. So now I have 4 wholes. Now, I'm going to see how many tenths there are in all of these 4 wholes. Now we know that one whole has 10 tenths. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, it goes all the way down to the bottom. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So if there are 10 tenths in one whole, that means there are 10, 20, 30, 40 in 4 wholes. Now, since 4 wholes is equal to 40 tenths, we now have to include the additional 2 tenths that are part of this number. Remember, this number is 4 and 2/10. So if we take the 40 tenths from the 4 wholes and we combine it with the 2 tenths from this part here, then in total we have 42 tenths. And I'm going to represent that as a fraction. Great. So we have the 42 tenths, which was represented by this number. The 4 wholes converted into 40 tenths, and then we included these 2 additional tenths to give us 42 tenths in total. So now we're going to look at the next number. So this number here is 12 hundredths. So we're going to see how that is represented by using the base 10 blocks, and then we're going to take that representation and turn it into a fraction. So let's go back to the base 10 blocks. Okay, so we are going, let me get rid of these wholes from the last number. We need 12 hundredths. So if we look at this whole, we know that 1 long is a tenth, okay? But each cube within is a hundredth, which means that 12 hundredths would be 1 long, which is 1/10, and 2 additional cubes. So it looks something like this. If I took it and just pulled it out of here, this would be 12 hundredths. Now, since we have 12 hundredths, we are going to write it as such. We are going to take this 12 hundredths and represent it as a fraction. Excellent. So now we took 4 and 2/10. We turned it into 42 tenths. And then we took 12 hundredths and wrote it as a fraction, 12 hundredths. Now what we would do is we would conduct multiplication. We will multiply across since we're multiplying fractions. So 42 times 12 will give us 504. And then 10 times 100 gives us 1,000. So our answer becomes 504 thousandths. Now we started off with decimal numbers. So let's put this answer, let's put this product back as a decimal number. So how do we write 504 thousandths? We are going to use a place value chart to help us to figure that out. Okay, so we have 504 thousandths. So I'm going to go to the place value chart. And since it's thousandths, I'm not going to concentrate on this side because it'd be a decimal number, thousandths. So we have our decimal point. We're going to put 5 underneath the tenths place, 0 underneath the hundredths place, and 4 underneath the thousands place. So our decimal answer, our product, would look like this: 0.504 thousandths. So let's go back and let's just show how that would look as a decimal number. So 504 thousandths will also be equal to 504 thousandths. So what we did was we took a decimal problem, a decimal multiplication problem, and instead of just conducting the basic algorithm method, we looked at each decimal number and we converted it into a fraction to show the relationship, how a decimal is a fraction and a fraction is a decimal. We used the base 10 blocks to help us to see what that looked like, how that was represented. And once we did that for both decimal numbers, we multiplied them straight across. We multiplied the numerators across, we got 504. We multiplied the denominators across, we got 1,000. So we knew that our answer was 504 thousandths because it is in fraction form. Now, since we started with decimals, we decided to take the fraction and put it back into decimal form by using a place value chart to assist us. And here is the final answer: 504 thousandths.